Get your hands off me. You're making a mistake." The scream tore through the silence of the first-class cabin, causing every passenger to freeze. A 17-year-old girl, tears streaming down her face, was being shoved against the bulkhead by a flight attendant, the cold metal of zip-tie cuffs biting into her wrists. The crew thought she was just another unruly teenager trying to sneak a free upgrade. They thought she was a nobody. They didn't know that the phone, vibrating in her back pocket, contained a direct line to the man who had just signed the check to buy their entire airline. And when he picks up, nobody is going to be ready for the fallout. The fluorescent hum of JFK's Terminal 4 was a sound Maya Washington had known since she was a toddler. While other kids grew up with the sounds of suburban lawn mowers or city traffic, Maya grew up with the roar of jet engines and the rhythmic ding-dong of gate announcements. At 17, she moved through the chaotic ecosystem of the airport with the ease of a shark in open water. She adjusted the noise-cancelling headphones over her ears. Beat Studio Pro, a gift from her father for her birthday last week, and smoothed the front of her vintage oversized hoodie. It was comfortable, nondescript, and, to the untrained eye, looked like something picked out of a thrift bin. To those who knew fashion, the stitching on the hem whispered Balenciaga. But Maya didn't dress to impress. She dressed to survive the 12-hour haul to Dubai. Flight 882 to Dubai is now boarding Group 1 and first-class passengers at Gate B24, the announcer's voice crackled overhead. Maya sighed, pulling her passport and boarding pass from her small leather crossbody bag. She was exhausted. Her father, David Washington, had flown out 3 days prior on a private jet to finalize a merger of the century, as the business journals were calling it. Maya had stayed behind to finish her AP history exam, promising to catch the next commercial flight out to join him for the celebratory dinner. She walked toward the lane marked First Class/Priority, her steps light and unhurried. The economy line was already snaking back toward the food court, a river of tired faces and overstuffed carry-ons. The first-class lane, by contrast, was empty, except for the gate agent standing guard like a sentry at the gates of a fortress. Her name tag read Patricia. She was a woman in her late 50s, with a stiff, hair-sprayed bob that looked like a helmet, and a mouth set in a permanent line of disapproval. As Maya approached, Patricia didn't look at her face. She looked at Maya's sneakers, then her hoodie, then her messy bun. Maya stepped up to the podium, holding out her phone with the QR code displayed. "Excuse me, miss," Patricia said, her voice dripping with a sickly sweet condescension that made Maya's skin crawl. "The economy boarding hasn't started yet. You need to wait for Group 5. That line is back there." She pointed a manicured finger toward the chaotic mass of people behind them. Maya didn't blink. She was used to this. It was the invisible tax she paid every time she traveled without her father. "I know," Maya said, her voice calm. "I'm in Group 1, Seat 1A. She thrust her phone forward again. Patricia didn't even scan it. She actually let out a short, incredulous laugh. "Honey, Seat 1A is the flagship suite. A ticket for that seat costs more than most people make in a month. Now please step aside so the actual priority passengers can board. You're blocking the lane." The air around them seemed to drop a few degrees. A businessman in a charcoal suit stepped up behind Maya, clearing his throat impatiently. "Mum," Maya said, her tone hardening just enough to show steel. "Scan the code. If it rejects, I'll walk away." "But you are refusing to do your job based on what, exactly?" "My hoodie?" Patricia's eyes narrowed. She snatched the phone from Maya's hand, tapping the screen aggressively. "When this beeps red, I'm going to have security escort you to the back of the line for causing a disturbance." She slammed the phone down on the scanner. Beep! A green light flashed. The screen on Patricia's console lit up. Washington, Maya, Seat 1, A, status, VIP. The silence that followed was loud. The businessman behind Maya peered over Maya's shoulder and raised an eyebrow. Patricia stared at the screen, her mouth slightly open. She blinked, as if willing the computer to change its mind. It must be a glitch, Patricia muttered, more to herself than Maya. She looked up, her eyes searching Maya's face for a sign of deceit, a crack in the facade. How did you get this? Did you use a parent's miles? Is this an employee pass? Does it matter? Maya asked, reaching for her phone. It's green. Can I board? Patricia held on to the phone for a second too long, her knuckles white. She was embarrassed, and for a personality like Patricia's, embarrassment quickly curdled into anger. Don't tolerate rowdiness in the first. Don't tolerate rowdiness in the first cabin. Maya took her phone, her heart rate slightly elevated, but her face composed. I'll try to keep it down, she said dryly. As she walked down the jet bridge, she thought the worst was over. She thought she had won the little battle. She didn't realize that Patricia wasn't just a gate agent. She was the senior purser for the flight. The gate was just the opening skirmish. The war was waiting for her at 30,000 feet. The cabin of the Aerovantage 777 was a sanctuary of cream leather and soft ambient lighting. Seat 1A wasn't just a seat. It was a private suite with sliding doors, a lie-flat bed, and a personal vanity. Maya threw her bag into the overhead bin and sank into the plush leather, exhaling a long breath. She pulled out her phone and texted her dad. Maya, boarded. Gate lady was a nightmare. But I'm in 1A. See you in 12 hours. Dad, sorry to hear that, kiddo. Aerovantage has been having management issues. That's why we're fixing it. Sit tight. Love you. She smiled, locking her screen. She decided not to tell him how rude the woman was. He had enough on his plate with the acquisition deal closing tomorrow. She just wanted to watch a movie, eat some warm nuts, and sleep. The cabin began to fill. A few older men in suits, a wealthy couple in designer tracksuits, and a young tech bro type occupied the other suites. Then, the heavy curtain at the front of the cabin swished open. Patricia walked in. She had changed from her gate blazer into the in-flight vest, but the scowl was the same. She was holding the flight manifest on a tablet, tapping it aggressively with a stylus. She made a show of greeting the businessman in 1F by name, offering him a glass of champagne immediately. She fawned over the couple in 2A and 2B. Then she arrived at 1A. Maya had her headphones on, scrolling through the movie selection. She felt a shadow loom over her and looked up. Patricia was standing there, arms crossed, not offering champagne, not offering a menu. Ticket, Patricia demanded. Maya frowned, sliding her headphones down to her neck. I showed it to you at the gate. You scanned it. I need to verify it again, Patricia said, her voice loud enough that the man in 1F looked over. We have a discrepancy in the passenger count. The system shows 1A might be a double booking. Maya felt a knot of anxiety tighten in her stomach. This was harassment, pure and simple. She unlocked her phone and brought up the boarding pass again. Patricia didn't even look at it. She looked at the tablet in her own hand. See, this is the problem. We have a Mr. Charles Sterling, listed as a priority upgrade for this seat. He's a Diamond Medallion member. There's been a system error. Your ticket was likely issued by mistake due to an overbooking glitch. I bought this ticket 2 weeks ago, Maya said, her voice rising slightly. My father bought it. Full fare. It's not an upgrade. Lower your voice, Patricia hissed, leaning in. You are disturbing the other passengers. Now look, I have a seat for you in Economy Plus. Row 24. It has extra legroom. You need to move so Mr. Sterling can take his rightful seat." Maya looked around. There was no Mr. Sterling standing there waiting. The cabin was fully boarded. The doors were about to close. "Where is Mr. Sterling?" Maya asked. "He is currently seated in business, waiting for you to vacate his suite," Patricia lied. It was a clumsy lie, but she delivered it with the confidence of someone who had never been challenged by a teenager before. "Grab your bag now." "No," Maya said. She fastened her seatbelt. The click sounded like a gunshot in the quiet cabin. Patricia's face turned a shade of blotchy red. "Excuse me?" I said no. I have a valid ticket. I am seated. The doors are closing. If you have a problem with my ticket, you can take it up with ground crew. But she pressed the intercom button on the 24. Patricia straightened up, smoothing her uniform. A dangerous glint entered her eyes. She pressed the intercom button on the wall of the suite. "Captain, this is the purser. We have a situation in first. A passenger is refusing crew instructions and becoming belligerent. I might need assistance." Maya's jaw dropped. "Belligerent? I'm sitting down." "You are refusing a direct order from a flight crew member," Patricia stated, her voice icy. "That is a federal offense. I am giving you one last chance. Move to seat 24B, or we will have you removed." Maya looked at the other passengers. The businessman in 1F was watching, looking uncomfortable but saying nothing. The tech bro in 3A had his earbuds in, oblivious. She was alone. "I'm not moving," Maya repeated, her hands trembling slightly in her lap. She knew she was right. She knew her father owned the company, or would in about 24 hours. But right now, in this metal tube, Patricia held the power. "Fine," Patricia said. She turned on her heel and marched toward the cockpit. Moments later she returned, but she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by a large man in a generic polo shirt and slacks, the air marshal, or perhaps just a very beefy member of the ground security team who hadn't left yet. "That's her!" Patricia pointed at Maya like she was identifying a fugitive. She's squatting in the seat and refused to comply with safety instructions. The man stepped into Maya's personal space. "Miss, you need to grab your things and come with me. We can't depart with a non-compliant passenger." "I haven't done anything," Maya pleaded, panic finally cracking her voice. "She's lying. I have a ticket. Look." She held up her phone again. The man didn't look. He reached out and grabbed her upper arm. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Don't touch me." Maya instinctively jerked her arm away. "Assault!" Patricia shrieked. "She just struck an officer. Did you see that? Restrain her." It happened in a blur. The man lunged. Maya was hauled out of the soft leather seat, her headphones clattering to the floor. She was spun around, her face pressed against the rough fabric of the cabin partition. "Stop! Please! Call my dad! Just let me call my dad!" Maya screamed, tears hot and blinding. "You had your chance to cooperate," the man grunted. Patricia reached into a compartment near the galley and produced a pair of heavy-duty plastic flex cuffs. "Use these. She's a danger to the flight." As the plastic zip tie cinched tight around Maya's wrists, biting into her skin, a sudden hush fell over the plane. The businessman in 1F finally stood up. "Hey, isn't that a bit excessive? She's a kid," he said. "Sit down, sir," Patricia snapped, her authority absolute. "Unless you want to be offloaded too. This is a matter of national security." Maya was shoved into a jump seat near the galley, the humiliation burning hotter than the cuffs. Patricia leaned down, her face inches from Maya's. "You should have just taken the economy seat, sweetheart," she whispered. "Now you're going to jail." Maya squeezed her eyes shut, her mind racing. "Dad. I need Dad." But her phone was still in seat 1A, sliding between the cushions, buzzing silently with a text from David Washington. Dad, just got an alert that your ticket status changed to offloaded. Is everything okay? Call me. Nobody answered. The plane doors were sealed. The jump seat was designed for safety, not comfort, and certainly not for a prisoner. It was a rigid, fold-down slab located in the galley, right next to the lavatories. Maya's wrists burned. The plastic flex cuffs were ratcheted so tight that her hands were beginning to go numb, the circulation slowly pinching off. The flight had leveled off at cruising altitude, the fasten seatbelt sign dinging off with a cheerful chime that felt like a mockery of her situation. The curtains separating first class from the galley were drawn shut, but Maya could hear the clinking of porcelain and the soft hiss of champagne bottles being uncorked. Patricia bustled around the galley, humming a tune. She was in her element. She prepared the warmed nuts and the marinated olives, arranging them on silver trays with precise, practiced movements. She stepped over Maya's legs, as if Maya were a piece of luggage left in the hallway. Water, Maya croaked. Her throat felt like sandpaper. Please, can I have some water? Patricia paused, holding a bottle of sparkling mineral water. She looked down at Maya, her expression unreadable for a moment, before curling into a smirk. Water is for paying customers, sweetie. You're cargo now. Besides, I can't have you needing to use the restroom every 5 minutes. We're locked in for the long haul. She turned and breezed through the curtain, leaving Maya alone in the dim galley light. A younger flight attendant, her name tag reading Jessica, was prepping the coffee machine nearby. She looked at Maya, her eyes wide with conflict. She had seen the takedown. She knew it felt wrong. But Patricia was the senior purser, a 30-year veteran who could end Jessica's career with a single bad performance review. Jessica checked to make sure Patricia was out of the cabin, then quickly grabbed a paper cup, filled it with tap water, and held it to Maya's lips. Drink fast, Jessica whispered, her hands shaking slightly. Maya gulped the lukewarm water, some of it spilling down her chin because she couldn't use her hands. Thank you, she gasped. Please, you have to help me. My dad, his name is David Washington. I can't, Jessica hissed, pulling the cup away as the curtain rippled. She'll fire me. Jessica tossed the cup in the trash, just as Patricia returned with an empty tray. Patricia looked from Jessica to Maya, her eyes narrowing. Everything okay back here? No unauthorized fraternizing with the detainee, Jessica. Protocol. Yes, Patricia, Jessica murmured, keeping her head down. Meanwhile, in the first-class cabin, the atmosphere was thick with tension. The businessman in seat 1F, Mr. Robert Henderson, wasn't eating. He was a hedge fund manager, a man who built his career on reading people and situations. He had watched the girl in 1A. She hadn't been drunk. She hadn't been loud. She had been a tired kid in a hoodie. He looked at the empty suite in 1A. It was still empty. No Mr. Charles Sterling had appeared. He pulled out his phone. The flight had Wi-Fi, expensive, slow satellite Wi-Fi, but functional. He logged onto the Airline's app. He looked at the seat map for this flight. Seat 1A, occupied. He frowned. He opened WhatsApp. Henderson. Hey, weird situation on my flight to Dubai. Crew just handcuffed a teenage girl and dragged her out of first. Said she stole the seat, but nobody else took it. Purser is acting like a tyrant. Wife. That sounds awful. Is she okay? Henderson. Don't know. They have her in the galley. I'm going to record the audio if I can. Something smells rotten. 4,000 miles away, in a glass-walled boardroom in Manhattan, David Washington was rubbing his temples. The acquisition meeting was grueling. Lawyers, accountants, and the current board of AeroVantage were picking over every cent of the $4.2 billion buyout. David was a man who came from nothing, a self-made logistics mogul who started with one delivery truck in Chicago and built an empire. He was buying AeroVantage not just for profit, but because he loved aviation. He wanted to restore the glamour and respect of flying. "Mr. Washington," one of the lawyers said, sliding a document across the mahogany table, "we just need your signature on the liability clauses for the current fleet staff." David picked up his pen, but his eyes darted to his phone sitting face up on the table. No texts from Maya. She should have been in the air for 2 hours now. She usually texted him a picture of the clouds or her dinner. "1 second," David said, holding up a hand. The room fell silent. When David Washington spoke, you listened. He tapped the Find My app on his phone. The dot for Maya's iPhone was moving. It was over the Atlantic Ocean. Good, he thought. She's on the flight. But then he saw the notification badge on his messages. It wasn't from Maya. It was an automated alert from his executive assistant, Sarah. "Urgent. AeroVantage Ground Ops Report. Incident on Flight 882. David frowned. He opened the email. It was a standard automated forward because his team was monitoring all AeroVantage metrics during the buyout process. Subject: passenger offloaded / security incident. Flight 882, JFK to DXB. Passenger: Washington, Maya. Status: offloaded post-boarding. Reason: assault on crew member. Verbal abuse, fraudulent ticketing. Action: transferred to NYPD custody at gate, pending." David's blood ran cold. The pen snapped in his hand with a sharp crack. "Mr. Washington?" the lawyer asked nervously. "She wasn't offloaded," David whispered, staring at the GPS dot moving at 500 miles per hour over the ocean. "My phone says she's on the plane, but the report says she's in jail." He stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. "This meeting is paused." "Sir, we have to finalize the—" "I said paused!" David roared, his voice echoing off the glass walls. "Get me the VP of Operations for AeroVantage on the phone, now, and get me the contact for the cockpit of Flight 882. "Sir, we can't just call a cockpit," one of the airline executives stammered. "Protocol dictates—" David leaned over the table, his eyes burning with a terrifying intensity. "I am buying this airline at 9 a.m. tomorrow. Technically, I own the debt, the fuel, and the lease on that jet right now. If my daughter is on that plane and in danger, I will dismantle this company bolt by bolt and sell it for scrap. Get me the damn phone." Back on Flight 882, the lights had been dimmed for the sleep portion of the flight. Maya was weeping silently. Her shoulders ached and her hands were swollen. The humiliation was worse than the pain. Every time a passenger walked to the lavatory, they looked at her, some with pity, some with fear, thinking she must be a terrorist or a maniac to be restrained like this. Patricia sat in the jump seat opposite her, reading a gossip magazine, occasionally glancing over the rim of her reading glasses to make sure Maya hadn't magically escaped. "Stop crying," Patricia snapped, flipping a page. "You did this to yourself. If you'd just taken the economy seat, you'd be watching a movie right now." "My dad is going to kill you," Maya whispered. It wasn't a threat. It was a statement of fact. She knew David Washington. He was a kind man, a generous man, but he was fiercely protective. Patricia laughed. It was a dry, brittle sound. "Honey, unless your dad is the President of the United States, I really don't care. I've dealt with, do you know who my father is types for 20 years. They all sit down and shut up eventually." The intercom chimed, a soft, double ding that signaled a call from the cockpit to the cabin crew. Patricia sighed, unbuckling her harness. "Watch her," she commanded Jessica, who was reading a book in the corner. Patricia picked up the handset on the wall. "Cabin. Patricia, come to the cockpit." The captain's voice sounded tight, strained. "Bring the manifest." "Is there a problem, Captain?" "Just get up here. Now." Patricia hung up, rolling her eyes. "Pilots," she muttered. "Probably want another coffee." She didn't see the way the red light on the secure satellite phone unit in the cockpit was flashing. She didn't know that the frequency was being patched through directly from the AeroVantage headquarters operations center, a line reserved for hijackings and catastrophic mechanical failures. Captain Michael Miller was a good pilot. He was 50, grey-haired, and just wanted to fly his routes and retire with his pension. He had left the cabin management to Patricia. She was a dragon, but she ran a tight ship. When she told him they had a belligerent passenger who assaulted security, he believed her. He had no reason not to. Until 5 minutes ago, the SATCOM printer had spit out a message that made his co-pilot, a young first officer named Davies, go pale. From HQ Opis Director. Priority, critical to Captain Flight 882. Message, confirm location of passenger, Maya Washington, Father David Washington, new owner, chairman. On secure line, state's daughter wrongfully detained on your aircraft. Advise immediately. Captain Miller stared at the paper. He looked at the manifest Patricia had given him earlier. It listed Washington, M, as offloaded. "Davies," Miller said, his voice trembling slightly. "You hold the stick. I need to take this call." He put on his headset and keyed the secure frequency. "Flight 882, Captain Miller speaking." "Miller, this is Johnson, VP of Ops." The voice in his ear was clipped and terrified. "I have Mr. Washington here. He says his daughter is tracking on your flight. We have an incident report signed by your purser saying she was arrested in New York. What is going on?" I was told she was removed, sir. We have a passenger in custody in the galley, but I was told it was an unruly upgrade scammer who hit a marshal." There was a noise on the other end, a scuffling sound, like a phone being grabbed. Then a new voice, deep, resonant, and vibrating with suppressed rage. "Captain Miller?" Yes, sir. This is David Washington. Describe the girl in custody." Miller swallowed hard. "I haven't seen her personally, sir. The purser handled it. But African-American teenager. Hoodie. That is my daughter," David Washington said. The silence that followed was heavier than gravity. "Is she handcuffed?" I believe so, sir. Protocol for assault. Did you see the assault?" "No, sir. The purser—" "Captain Miller," David cut him off. "Listen to me very carefully. You are currently flying an aircraft that I paid for. You are wearing a uniform that I pay for. If my daughter is in cuffs because of a lie told by your staff, there will be no place on Earth you can land where you will still have a job. Do you understand me?" "Yes, Mr. Washington. Go back there. Verify her identity. If it is Maya, you release her, you apologize, and you put her in seat 1A, and then you put your purser on the phone with me. Copy that, sir." Captain Miller took off his headset. He looked at Davies. "I have the aircraft," Davies said, eyes wide. "Go." Miller unbuckled and stood up. He opened the cockpit door just as Patricia arrived. "What's up, Cap?" Patricia asked, leaning against the doorframe, looking bored. "Did you need a refill?" Miller didn't smile. He looked past her, down the narrow hallway toward the galley. "Where is the prisoner?" "In the back. She's fine. Stopped crying, finally." Miller brushed past her. "Hey, Mike, what are you doing?" Patricia hustled after him. "You can't leave the flight deck during—" Miller ignored her. He marched through the first-class cabin. Mr. Henderson looked up from his phone, sensing the shift in energy. Miller ripped open the galley curtain. He saw Maya. She was slumped in the jump seat, her head resting against the wall, her eyes puffy and red. Her hands were purple. Miller felt sick. He recognized her. He had seen the photo of David Washington's family in the company newsletter last month when the buyout was announced. He knelt down. "Miss, are you Maya?" Maya flinched, pulling her legs back. She looked up, terrified. "I didn't do anything," she whimpered. "Please." Miller pulled a small knife from his pocket, a rescue tool. "Don't!" Patricia shrieked from behind him. "That is a violent passenger. She's secured for a reason." Miller spun around. The fury on his face made Patricia take a step back. "Give me the keys to these cuffs," Miller growled. "Now! The marshal took them. We have to cut them." Miller turned back to Maya. "I'm going to cut these off. Stay still. I'm the captain. I'm sorry. I am so sorry." He carefully sawed through the thick plastic. The zip tie snapped. Maya gasped as the blood rushed back into her hands. She rubbed her wrists, wincing. "Who are you?" Miller asked gently. "Maya Washington," she whispered. Miller closed his eyes for a second. Then he stood up and turned to Patricia. The first-class passengers were now standing up, peering over the seats to see the commotion. "Patricia," Miller said, his voice carrying through the silent cabin. "Do you know who this is?" "She's a scammer," Patricia insisted, though her voice wavered. She stole a seat. "She is David Washington's daughter," Miller said. Patricia blinked. "Who?" "David Washington, the man who bought Aerovantage yesterday. The man who signs our paychecks starting tomorrow." The color drained from Patricia's face so fast it looked like she had passed out standing up. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish. "No, that's impossible. The system said—" "Mr. Sterling—" "There is no Mr. Sterling," Miller said. "There is only the girl you assaulted and kidnapped." Miller turned to Maya and offered her a hand. "Miss Washington, please come with me. Your suite is waiting, and your father is on the phone, in the cockpit. He wants to speak to you." Maya stood up on shaky legs. She looked at Patricia. Patricia was trembling. I was just following protocol. The glitch. I didn't know." Maya didn't say a word to her. She didn't have to. She walked past the purser, head held high, rubbing her bruised wrist. As she entered the first-class cabin, Mr. Henderson started to clap. Slowly at first, then louder. The tech bro joined in. The couple in row 2 joined in. Maya walked to the cockpit, tears streaming down her face again, but this time from relief. Captain Miller handed her the headset. "It's him." Maya put the headset on. "Dad?" "Maya!" David's voice cracked. "Are you hurt? Tell me the truth." "They cuffed me, Dad. It really hurts. And she was so mean. She lied about everything." "I know, baby. I know." David's voice shifted from soft comfort to cold steel. "Put the captain back on." Maya handed the headset back to Miller. "Captain," David said, "I want that purser relieved of duty immediately. She is not to interact with any passenger for the remainder of the flight. Restrain her if you have to." "Understood, sir." "And Miller." "Yes, Mr. Washington." "When you land in Dubai, don't bother going to the hotel. My security team will be meeting the plane at the gate. Nobody gets off that plane until I say so." The remainder of the flight to Dubai was a surreal, high-altitude purgatory. Maya was back in seat 1A, but the magic of the suite had evaporated. It no longer felt like luxury. It felt like a gilded cage. The soft cream leather, once inviting, now felt cold against her skin. Jessica, the young flight attendant who had sneaked her water earlier, was now attending to her with the frantic dedication of a combat medic. She had brought the onboard first aid kit and was gently applying antiseptic gel to Maya's wrists. The plastic flex cuffs had cut deep, leaving angry purple welts that circled her forearms like bracelets of shame. "I'm so sorry, Maya," Jessica whispered, her hands trembling as she applied a cool compress. I should have stopped her. I should have said something louder. Maya looked out the window at the endless expanse of clouds, her eyes hollow. "You would have lost your job," she said quietly. "I know how people like her work." She holds the keys. "Not anymore," Jessica said, glancing toward the galley. The galley was silent. Captain Miller had been true to his word. Patricia had been relieved of duty. She was currently sitting in the crew rest jump seat at the very back of the plane, stripped of her vest and her authority. But the silence from the back of the plane was heavier than the noise had been. It was the silence of a predator waiting in a trap. In the first-class cabin, the atmosphere had shifted from awkward avoidance to collective outrage. Mr. Henderson, the hedge fund manager in 1F, had become the de facto leader of the passengers. He had spent the last 2 hours meticulously documenting everything. He had recorded a video statement on his phone detailing the timeline of events. He had asked the couple in row 2 to write down what they heard Patricia say. He unbuckled his seatbelt and knelt by Maya's suite. "Miss Washington," he said softly, "I want you to know that I have everything recorded. The way she spoke to you, the way she refused to check your ticket, the physical force. I'm sending this to my legal team the second we touch the ground. You won't have to fight this alone." Maya managed a weak smile. "Thank you, Mr. Henderson. My dad, he's pretty good at fighting, though." "I bet he is," Henderson chuckled grimly. "But even a general needs ammunition. I'm giving him the nukes." While the passengers rallied, a different kind of drama was unfolding in the cockpit. Captain Miller was flying the plane, but his mind was on the ground. He had received a steady stream of ACARS messages, text messages sent via satellite, from Aerovantage HQ. The messages were escalating in panic. HQ: confirm status of purser. Legal advises no interaction. HQ: Dubai police notified. Airport security leadership meeting flight. HQ: Mr. Washington has arrived at Terminal 3 Ops Center. He is watching the radar. Miller looked at his first officer, Davies. "You ever met the owner of an airline, Davies?" "No, sir, just the chief pilot." "Well," Miller said, watching the navigation display count down the miles to Dubai International, "we're about to meet the man who owns the sky, and I have a feeling he's going to tear this plane apart to find the truth." Back in the rear galley, Patricia was not sitting quietly. She was pacing the small space of the crew rest area, her mind racing like a rat in a maze. She knew she was in trouble. But Patricia was a survivor. She had survived 3 airline mergers, 2 bankruptcies, and a divorce. She wasn't going to let a teenager in a hoodie end her career. She needed a narrative. She was belligerent. Patricia rehearsed the lie in her head. She didn't have ID. The system glitched. I was protecting the flight deck. It was a security issue. I didn't know who she was. That was her ace in the hole. I didn't know. If she could convince them that it was an honest mistake caused by a faulty computer system, she might get a suspension, maybe a demotion. But she wouldn't get fired, and she certainly wouldn't get sued. She pulled out her personal phone. She needed to delete the texts she had sent to her friend in ground ops back at JFK, the texts where she had bragged about booting a hood rat to save the seat for Mr. Sterling. She unlocked her phone. Her thumb hovered over the delete button. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," a deep voice rumbled. Patricia jumped, nearly dropping the phone. The air marshal, the beefy man who had helped restrain Maya, was standing there. He had been silent for hours, sitting in economy, realizing with slow, dawning horror that he had physically assaulted the owner's daughter, based on Patricia's lies. "Excuse me?" Patricia snapped, trying to regain her composure. "The Wi-Fi logs everything," the marshal said, his face pale and sweaty. "If you delete evidence while on board, it's a felony. Obstruction of justice. I'm already looking at an assault charge because of you. I'm not going down for obstruction, too." He reached out and took the phone from her hand. "Hey, give that back." "I'm holding this as evidence," the marshal said, his voice flat. "For when the police come aboard. I'm cutting a deal, Patricia. I'm telling them you ordered me to do it. I'm not taking the fall for your power trip." Patricia stared at him, her mouth agape. The walls were closing in. "Cabin crew, prepare for landing," Captain Miller's voice boomed over the PA system. "Ladies and gentlemen, we will be landing shortly in Dubai. Please note that upon arrival, all passengers must remain seated. Do not unbuckle until instructed. Local authorities will be boarding the aircraft." The plane banked sharply. Below them, the glittering lights of Dubai sprawled out like a circuit board of gold and neon. To most, it looked like a city of dreams. To Patricia, it looked like a courtroom. The landing gear deployed with a heavy thud. As the wheels touched the tarmac, there was no applause from the cabin. Just a tense, vibrating silence. The plane taxied, but it didn't go to the gate. It turned off the main taxiway and headed toward a remote stand, far away from the terminal. Through the window, Maya saw them. A fleet of black Cadillac Escalades, 5 Dubai police cruisers with lights flashing, and standing right in the center, bathed in the floodlights of the tarmac, was a tall figure in a dark suit, his tie loosened, his posture rigid. It was David Washington, and he looked like he was ready to burn the world down. The engines whined down to a stop. The seatbelt sign flicked off, but nobody moved. The tension inside the cabin was so thick, it felt like the air pressure had doubled. Usually when a plane lands at a remote stand, the stairs are rolled up, and a bus takes passengers to the terminal. Not tonight. The forward door of the 777 popped open. The humid night air of the desert rushed in. Patricia, despite being ordered to stay in the back, had moved to the front galley. She couldn't help herself. She had to try to control the narrative before David Washington saw his daughter. She straightened her uniform, put on her most professional, apologetic smile, and waited by the door. She expected the Dubai police first, or maybe the captain. Instead, David Washington walked onto the plane. He didn't look like a businessman. He looked like a force of nature. He was 6'2", broad-shouldered, with eyes that scanned the cabin with the precision of a laser sight. He didn't look at Patricia. He didn't even acknowledge her existence as she opened her mouth to speak. "Mr. Washington, I am so He walked right through her airspace, his shoulder brushing hers with enough force to make her stumble back against the galley lockers. He walked straight into the first-class cabin. "Maya," he said. His voice wasn't loud, but it cracked. Maya stood up from seat 1A. She looked small, exhausted, and incredibly young. She held up her wrists. David stopped. He stared at the welts on her skin. His jaw tightened so hard, a muscle feathered in his cheek. He reached out and gently took her hands, inspecting the damage. He didn't say a word, but the passengers nearby saw a tear slide down his face. He pulled her into a hug, burying his face in her hair. "I've got you," he whispered. "I'm here." He held her for a long minute, letting her cry into his suit jacket. Then he let go, keeping one arm wrapped protectively around her shoulders. The tenderness vanished from his face, replaced by a cold, calculating rage. He turned to the cabin. "Who did this?" he asked. It wasn't a scream. It was a question asked in a boardroom tone, which made it infinitely more terrifying. Captain Miller stepped out of the cockpit. Mr. Washington, I know it wasn't you, Miller, David said, cutting him off. You fixed it, but you didn't start it. David turned slowly toward the galley, where Patricia was cowering near the coffee makers. The air marshal was standing behind her, head bowed. David walked toward Patricia, bringing Maya with him. You, David said. He looked at her name tag. Patricia. Sir, please, Patricia stammered, her hands fluttering. It was a misunderstanding. The system, it showed a discrepancy. We have strict security protocols. I was just trying to keep the flight safe. I didn't know she was your daughter. If I had known— Stop, David said. He stepped closer. If you had known she was my daughter, you would have treated her with respect. Is that what you're saying? Well, yes. I mean, of course, we treat VIPs with— So, David interrupted, his voice dropping an octave. If she had been a girl from the Bronx with no father to buy the airline, it would have been okay to bruise her? To handcuff her? To humiliate her? Patricia's mouth opened, but no sound came out. She had walked into the trap. That is the problem, Patricia, David said. You didn't see a passenger. You saw a target. You saw a young black girl in a hoodie, and you decided she didn't belong in your sky. That's not true. I'm not racist. It was the ticket. It said Mr. Sterling. David pulled a folded piece of paper from his pocket. Mr. Sterling, he repeated. He held the paper up. It was a printout from the AeroVantage IT department. My team ran a forensic audit of the flight manifest while you were in the air, David said, his voice deadly calm. We found the entry for Charles Sterling. It was created at 4:15 p.m. yesterday by a terminal login associated with a user, ID P_D_AVIS_77. David looked at her. Is your last name Davis, Patricia? Patricia went white. You created a phantom booking, David continued, explaining it to the entire cabin. You overbooked the seat intentionally so you could bump a paying passenger. Why? Were you going to sell the upgrade for cash on the side? Or did you just want the seat empty for your own break? It happens all the time, Patricia whispered, tears of panic finally falling. Everyone does it. Please, Mr. Washington, I have a pension. I have 2 years left. You have nothing, David said. You don't work for AeroVantage anymore. In fact, as of 10 minutes ago, I instructed legal to terminate your contract for cause, gross misconduct, fraud, assault. Patricia crumpled, grabbing at his sleeve. Please, you can't. David pulled his arm away, as if her touch was corrosive. And I'm not done. You see those officers outside? He pointed out the open door to the Dubai police standing on the stairs. Assault is a crime in the United States, David said. But we are in Dubai now, and I have filed a formal complaint with the Dubai authorities for endangering the safety of an aircraft and filing false documents upon entry. Patricia's eyes bulged. The laws in the UAE were strict, very strict. They are going to arrest you, Patricia. You won't be flying home. You'll be staying here until the investigation is complete. And I have very good lawyers who will make sure they have every piece of evidence, including— David turned to the air marshal. The phone you tried to wipe. The marshal stepped forward, handing David the phone. She tried to delete the texts, sir. I stopped her. David took the phone. He looked at the marshal. You put your hands on my daughter, too. I did, sir, the marshal said, not making excuses. I followed her lie. I own that. I'll turn in my badge. You will, David agreed. But because you didn't lie to me just now, and because you stopped her from destroying evidence, I won't press charges against you personally. You'll just lose your job. Go. The marshal nodded, looking almost relieved, and walked down the stairs to the waiting police. David turned back to Patricia. "Get off my plane." "But where do I go?" she sobbed. "Into that police car," David said. 2 Dubai police officers stepped onto the plane. They didn't use flex cuffs. They used steel handcuffs. They clicked them onto Patricia's wrists that had never felt the bite of metal before. As they led her away, passing the first-class cabin, Mr. Henderson called out, "Hey, Patricia." She looked up, mascara running down her face. "I'm sending that video to the news," he said. "Just thought you should know." She was led down the stairs, her sobbing drowned out by the hum of the auxiliary power unit. David turned to the passengers. "Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this ordeal. This is not the airline I intend to run. Everyone on this flight will receive a full refund and a voucher for future travel. But for now, I need to take my daughter home." He looked at Maya. She was leaning against the wall, exhausted, but smiling. "Ready to go, kiddo?" "Yeah, Dad," she said. "But can we take a different plane? I don't like this one anymore." David laughed, a genuine booming sound that broke the last of the tension. "My private jet is parked 3 spots over. It has pizza." Maya grabbed her bag. "Let's go." The video Mr. Henderson recorded didn't just go viral. It became a global referendum on corporate arrogance. Uploaded with the title, "Purser Handcuffs Owner's Daughter, Instant Regret," it racked up 12 million views in the first 24 hours. The world watched in horror as Maya was shoved against the wall, and then cheered in the comments as Captain Miller cut her free and David Washington stormed the plane in Dubai. The hashtag #Seat1A began trending worldwide, a symbol for standing up against discrimination and abuse of power. For Patricia, the hard karma was swift and unforgiving. The Dubai authorities didn't take kindly to foreigners filing false police reports or endangering aviation safety within their borders. She spent 3 weeks in a holding cell, a stark, concrete room with none of the amenities of the business-class cabins she used to lord over. She eventually pleaded guilty to fraud and filing false documents to avoid a longer prison sentence. She was deported back to the United States. But her punishment didn't end at the border. The video had made her the most unemployable woman in the aviation industry. Her face was a meme, a warning, and a cautionary tale. The Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, revoked her certification permanently due to the fraudulent manifest changes. She lost her pension, her reputation, and her career. The last anyone heard, the woman who once turned her nose up at teenagers in hoodies was working the night shift at a toll booth in New Jersey, far away from the glamour of the skies. David Washington didn't just fire Patricia, he cleaned house. He used the incident to launch a massive internal audit of AeroVantage. He fired 3 executives who had ignored previous complaints about Patricia's behavior. He retrained the entire staff, implementing a new motto that was painted on the wall of every crew break room: "Respect every passenger, for they are the mission." As for Maya, she didn't let the trauma define her. She took the summer off to intern at her father's logistics company, starting in the warehouse, not the boardroom. She wanted to know the business from the ground up, just like her dad. 6 months later, Maya and David were at JFK again. They were flying to London for her graduation trip. As they approached the first-class lane, a new gate agent stood there. She saw Maya's hoodie. She saw her sneakers. She smiled warmly. "Welcome aboard, Ms. Washington. We have seat 1A ready for you." Maya smiled back, handing over her phone. "Thanks. It's good to be back." They walked down the jet bridge, not as owner and daughter, but just as 2 passengers who knew that true value isn't found in a ticket price, but in how you treat the people around you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call the Washington effect. It's a powerful reminder that you never truly know who you are dealing with. Patricia thought she was crushing a powerless teenager, but she was actually dismantling her own life, brick by brick. It's a lesson in humility, respect, and the undeniable fact that karma has a GPS, and it will find you, even at 30,000 feet. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, and you loved seeing justice served in the most satisfying way possible, please hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets us know you want more stories like this. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And I want to hear from you in the comments. If you were David Washington, would you have let Patricia off the hook, or did she get exactly what she deserved? Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching, and fly safe.